I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are on Treaty 1 and Dakota Nation's territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. I'll introduce the panel members and the secretary to the board and the assessor. First, I'm Marcel Larondo. I'll be chairing. Carrie Linkletter is to my left. Maurice Tapier is to my far left. The assessor today is Jason Brown, and our secretary today is Belen Rojo. To the participants of the hearing, please note you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it is your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along on the City's Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be admitted to speak with respect to your property. Once the hearing has concluded, you can leave the meeting. We will be hearing applications for revision of assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application. We will limit the discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony. Anyone speaking to the matter must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessment of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decision with respect to the application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to applications of exemption from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about the application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decisions by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. Please put your phones on mute, and we will be hearing items 1, 2, and 3 on our docket today. We'll go to item 1 first, and that will be 6101 Lombard Place. Belen, if you could swear in the appellant and the assessor, please.
Yep. Mr. Assessor, please state your full name. You are muted.
Sorry, Jason Brown.
And you affirm therein to represent the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Bradford Scott Borgstrom.
And you affirm therein to represent the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Jason, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just to confirm, I believe we're hearing 1011 Pembina Highway this morning first?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So Jason, if I might, Mr. Chairman, we are this morning seeking just a confirmation of the assessed value under section 54.1 of the Act. There's a lot of changes going on with this property, and it's just, we're seeking the confirmation pending developments.
Jason, you got a problem with that?
I do not. If you'd like me to go through the roll number and the file number, I can do that too.
Yes, please.
Yes, please. If you could just put the roll number on and the.
Okay, thank you. So the file number for this property is 21-348. Roll number is 0307190510. And the civic address is 1011 Pembina Highway. And the 2020 assessment is at $1,075,000.
Thank you very much, Jason. That'll conclude the matters on this one. We will move to file number 2.
Thank you and good morning.
Have a good day.
The applicant for that item has not connected yet. Would you like to move to
Okay.
item 3?
We'll move to item 3. Item 3 will be the property at, where is this property?
I believe it's
690 Notre Dame Avenue.
correct.
Jason, yeah, we have to swear in the
Yeah, or just... So item 2 is connected now. Would you like to go back or just continue with the docket?
The other one's not here. Let's go back to 2.
Let's go back to 2. Okay.
Yep. We're gonna go back to item 2. So we're gonna do 101 Sherbrooke Street. Jason, you got that?
I got that.
Thank you. Let's swear in the appellant. Do you hear us, Mr. Appellant?
Good morning, Mr. McLaughlin. You are muted.
Unmuted now, I believe.
Okay, thank you. Would you please state your full name?
Robert John McLaughlin.
And you affirm the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Okay, Jason?
Thank you,
got
Mr.
the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is file number 21-213. Roll number is 12097530600. Civic address is 101 Sherbrooke Street. This is the corner of Westminster and Sherbrooke. And this is the Sherbrooke Inn. Defending a 2022 assessment of $1,245,000. This is a Board of Revision order value. This was heard in 2020, and the board order set the value to $1,245,000. We are honoring that value today, and we're not seeking an increase. So this building was built in 1965. It has a license capacity of 349 seats. It has 18 VLTs and 26 guest rooms. Just to mention, this file for 2020 is also pending at Muni Board. We have been through the case management process on the 2020 file, and we actually have a pre-hearing scheduled 1 week from today for the 2020 assessment, which has the same reference date as the 2022 assessment that we're hearing today. On page 3 of my evidence, we have the original workup that was originally defended in the 2022 or the 2020 appeal. So we can see the original assessment was at $2,011,000 rounded. Moving forward to page 9, I have some photographs of the subject property, starting with a map view and an aerial view. We have the street view on page 10 and some interior photographs on page 11 and 12. We have the income and expense data starting on page 12. This was a non-cooperation issue in the original, and that was granted by the Board of Revision. But because it's already been granted, we're not seeking it today. Just quickly, we can turn right to page 34 of my evidence. This is the board order for the 2020 hearing on this property. We can see it was heard on October 1st, 2019. Same applicant as today. And under the details at the very bottom, we can see the decision is based on the evidence submitted by the applicant, and the assessment department is concurrence. So basically what happened for the 2020 appeal was the department agreed to Mr. McLaughlin's value. And the only issue that was being debated at that time was the deferral penalty. Moving on to page 35. This is an appeal from about a month ago. Same issues, same appellant, different property though. This is for 367 Ellis. Almost the exact same issues. And we can see at the bottom, the decision is based on the evidence presented by the Assessment and Taxation Department. The panel finds that the evidence presented by the applicant cannot be considered because of the total assessed value of the 2020 realty assessment should reflect economic conditions as of April 1st, 2018. So that's going to be the issue today, is the difference between economic conditions and physical conditions. Same issues as that order I just read, and it's our stance is that the economic conditions as of April 1st, 2018 are still relevant for this cycle. And we ask that the Board of Revision order of $1,245,000 be confirmed. Thank you.
Mr. McLaughlin, you got any questions of the assessor before you make your presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, I don't.
Okay. Modis, do you have any questions?
No, I don't, thank you.
Carrie, do you have any questions?
No, I don't, thank you.
I have one question just to follow up. You said that it's going to the Muni Board. If the Muni Board rules at a different number, are you going to be agreeing to it for this year as well, or?
Yes, if there is a settlement at the Muni Board, it will encompass this entire cycle, which for this period in time is 3 years.
And so no matter. Okay, Mr. McLaughlin, let's go on with your presentation then.
Thank you, sir. Well, as you know, these are trying times for hoteliers. This particular hotel relies heavily on beverage and VLT revenue. The government, for whatever reason, has decided to close or limit access to these hotels for 53% of the last 15 months. The last hearing I was at with 367 Ellis, I produced income and expense statements illustrating a $2.5 million loss for the closures. In this particular instance, I am not presenting the same case. What I'm telling you is that out of the last 15 months, and this is confirmed by the Hotel Association, 8 months these hotels experienced forced closures, physical closures. This has got nothing to do with economics. The city of Winnipeg or the assessment department often adjusts assessments based on physical issues, such as a fire. If a fire closes a hotel down, well, they'll change the assessment because it's a physical change, or they'll adjust an assessment for a physical change. I'm submitting to you that this is a physical change. The government physically closed the doors. They had nothing to do with the economy and everything to do with a unilateral decision that the government made. And as a result, this operator has lost 53% of his business. Now, in a small operation like this, VLT and beverage sales are paramount as to whether or not they pay the bills. For the city of Winnipeg, in a circumstance like this, to not recognize this and charge the full assessment and taxation, it is paramount to standing on the operator's back. He has no revenue to pay these taxes, and I do believe that it's only fair that they reflect the unusual circumstance and adjust the assessment for this time period to reflect the loss in revenue. Furthermore, hotels trade based on how they perform. We have no idea moving forward into the future if this is going to happen again. And if it's going to happen again, how often will it happen? And how will that affect the hotel industry and the value of hotels? There's no way to know that, and perhaps we'll have a better idea next reassessment. But right now, this operator is starving and needs the little bit of assistance that the reduction from $1,245,000 down to $1,061,000 will provide from the city of Winnipeg through taxation relief. So if I can draw your attention to just quickly page 2 of my brief. I'll just keep it simple. And just to illustrate that what the gross sales were for beverage room were $358,000. For ATM it was $33,000, and for VLT it was $224,000. These I've all reduced by 53%, which is the amount of time it was closed over the last year and a half. That reduction I've recognized as 6.7% net income, and I've capitalized it at 12%, which gives us 183,000. 6.7% of that loss is $22,039. Capitalized at 12% is 183,658, rounded to 184,000. I'm asking for a reduction of $184,000, which really is not going to pay the bills, but at least it'll help a bit this operator keep his head above water. So again, Mr. Chairman, I'm asking for a reduction from $1,245,000 down to $1,061,000. Thank you.
Jason, you have any questions?
Just a couple. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. McLaughlin, you'll agree that the reference date for this cycle is April 1st, 2018?
That's correct.
Okay, and you'll agree that the reference date for the next cycle will be April 1st, 2021?
Actually, I don't know that, but okay. I don't disagree.
Okay, thank you. So this hotel will receive relief next cycle when the economic conditions will obviously be during part of when they were shut down. Would you agree with that?
I honestly, well, I guess we'll see. But my submission is not economic, it's physical. The doors were physically closed. They could not do business. That's the position.
Yeah, I mean, they were closed. That could be argued that they were closed due to economic conditions. So basically the gist of my question is that next cycle we'll be valuing these as they were going through COVID. And you would agree that we will capture, it will most likely be captured during that cycle.
I hope so.
Okay, thank you.
But in the meantime, we're looking for relief this year or for next year.
And just one more question, please. You will agree that the value under appeal today, $1,245,000, that was your number from the 2020 hearing?
That was my number, of course, under different circumstances.
Of course. Thank you. Those are my questions.
What is?
You're Mr. McLaughlin, you're using the section 13(1)B of the Muni Act to use the physical change aspect. I'm just looking at sub 4, and it talks about the physical characteristics of the property. And how do you define the physical change that you argue is within the scope of the act to make an adjustment at the assessment division? I'm just trying to get a better handle on that. Because I'm looking at that section here and the physical change is what I'm concerned about in your definition.
Yes, sir. And of course, these are this is the first time this has ever happened. The Municipal Assessment Act, of course, was not written to reflect any kind of circumstance like this. But physically, the property was closed. The government physically closed the property. They shut the doors. You could not do business. It was a physical change. The result is the same as if the place had been on fire and you could no longer do business. It was physically closed down. It wasn't because of the economy. It was because it was a government mandate. And this affects directly the value of the hotel. If you lose 53% of your highest profit revenue, it's crippling for a hotel. And that is exactly what's occurred with these hotels. It's not fair that it's all piled on. These hotels, they gross a lot of money and they net very little. And to lose 53% of the high margin revenue that they receive because of a physical closure by the government is unjust. And I think we're looking for a way to make it a little bit more fair for the operator through these trying times.
Yeah, sir, I do understand that. I'm not challenging that it's a challenge right now. But do you have any case law or anything that defines what a physical change is, or the community decision that defines physical change? I'm looking because the board here, we have to go on what the act says, and there has to be an interpretation. I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just trying to understand a little better. I understand all your arguments, but I am not convinced that it fits within 13.1b4 unless I see something to back it up. So
well,
you can't, that's fine, sir. I'm just trying to get a handle on it. Thank you.
Gary,
I guess the only thing I would say is that this was, 2 years ago, nobody could have ever conceived what we're dealing with right now. But the reality is that these the hoteliers are really feeling the pinch, and I'm trying to make honey out of shoe polish here. I guess is the problem.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Gary?
I have no questions, thank you.
I guess, if you don't mind, I'm going to go back to Jason for a minute with a question. Jason, if this had been a fire that had shut the location down and caused this type of loss of revenue, would that have been considered?
Yes, of course. I mean, a fire is obviously devastating. Would require a rebuild. Would require construction after. Obviously, this place was closed down due to the pandemic. However, once the restrictions were lifted, they could just open the doors, and there was, they didn't have to rebuild like if there was a fire.
But with a fire, you would open it up and you'd have your full operation back in play, correct?
Once it was rebuilt, it would go back on the roll, yes.
Yeah, but with COVID right now, are we not shutting them down for a long period of time and then letting them only open with?
Honestly, I mean, some income streams were shut down, but this premise has a vendor, which we're actually just compiling the data right now for the reassessment, and we've noticed that the hotels with vendors actually have done quite well because obviously, if you can't go to a lounge and have a beverage, you're gonna maybe go to the vendor and get a case and bring it home. We were looking at one this morning that went from $4 million on average, the vendor, to $7 million. So
that would show in their net profits.
Well, vendors generally have about a 10% profit. So if you're doing $7 million on your vendor, that's a profit of $700,000, which is not too bad, considering the conditions that they're operating in. This hotel does have a vendor, which was still operating, and it does still have rooms, which I believe are generally rented by the month in this hotel. More of like a living, month-to-month living arrangements. So I don't think those would have went down either. And I believe the vendor probably would have gone up. So yeah, they probably did suffer some, and I don't know, like they have a restaurant that pays rent and a pawn shop that pays rent. So it's not like this place was completely shut down like in a fire with zero operating income.
No, we never said it was zero.
No, of course not. But that would be the difference between these restrictions and a fire, in my opinion.
Mr. McLaughlin, with your presentation on that page 2, you didn't show any revenues from rental properties or from the vendor.
Well, no, because the only thing that was affected was the VLT, the ATM, and the beverage room, because those are the things that were closed down. The vendor was functioning, and the rooms were functioning, absolutely. And I accept the whatever the 2018 numbers we used, I accept that at face value. But it is no longer true that the 2018 numbers are consistent. Now there's a loss of 53% of that. Now I would just like to mention something that the assessor said. Yes, the vendor has gone up, and yes, you know, they're keeping 10% of the vendor sales. It's been my experience that beverage hotels, for the most part, the only revenue you're capitalizing are VLT revenue. Most of these places would be in a negative position if it wasn't for VLT. So yes, vendor, that's great, but really the bread and butter is the VLT and beverage room, which is, you're keeping about 40% of that, I believe, or used to. So although the increase in vendor sales is great, it's still not going to pay the bills. We still need the VLT. We still need the beverage to support these operations.
Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Can I ask one more question, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Just to Mr. McLaughlin. Yes, the VLT's beverage and I guess ATM are the three you made adjustments to?
Yes, sir.
Would the expenses not have gone down on those two? They wouldn't have staff on hand for the beverage room. They wouldn't have a manager working.
Well, all I can do is all I can do. And what I did was use 6.7% of that loss as a net income loss.
Okay.
So we're down to 93% of expenses and 7% or less than 7% of net income.
Okay, thank you.
That'll conclude the matter. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
We're going to move on to file number 3. I can. We're going to have a recess for 5 minutes. 5 minutes. We'll call the meeting back to order. We'll be dealing with the property at 690 Notre Dame Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, I can perhaps expedite a bit. We have this matter at the municipal board, and I think it's scheduled next spring for case management. So today I'd just like to confirm the assessment.
I'm liking the sounds of that. Are you okay with that, Jason?
I am fine with that, Mr. Chairman. I can go through the
Call the meeting back to order. We'll be dealing with the property at 6. Just 1 second, Sid. I forgot to swear you in.
Oh, yes.
90 Notre Dame Avenue.
Correct.
And please close your YouTube player.
Chairman, I can perhaps expedite a bit. We have this matter at the municipal board, and
You got to close that off, the YouTube player, Sid. Do you know how to do that? Don't shut everything else down. Sid, did you shut it down?
I muted him just in case.
hearing back or?
He's getting back to us to help him.
Shut it down?
We're working on it
I'm
right now.
muting him just in case.
Magna is here. Are we okay?
YouTube player shut down now?
What do we need to do? Sorry.
Sorry, what did you say? It's what shut down?
The YouTube player, you had it on the screen.
Oh, sorry. Okay, we're good.
You're good now?
Okay.
Okay, Sid, can I swear you in, please?
Please.
Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
My name is Sydney Earl Story.
And you affirm the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sid, do you want to repeat that other part, Sid, that you said about confirmation?
Yes, this matter is at the municipal board for the last 4 years, I believe. Scheduled, case management is scheduled. So we've talked to Jason and we're prepared to just ask this assessment be confirmed at this time.
Okay, thank you. Jason, you want to read the information off of the record?
Of course, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is file number 21-371. Roll number is 13096138100. Civic address at 690 Notre Dame. Defending an assessment, which is a board of or a revision order at $7,292,000.
Thank you, Jason. Gentlemen, that'll conclude the matter for today. And thank you very much for your presentations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, panel members, and thank you, Bellin.
Thank you.